Joining me live in studio is Nova Radio host Kent Smallzy. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Probably a bit late to be saying Happy New Year to people.
What's the cutoff?
But I'm keeping the dream alive. All right. Britney Spears has announced that she's never returning to the music industry. What has prompted that statement?
There's been a couple of rumours floating around over the last 2 weeks or so that she's been busy working in the studio and writing music with a couple of other musicians, Charli XCX and another artist called Julia Michaels. People were very excited that this was going to be the year that Britney was going to make her musical comeback, but she's put the kibosh on that and said absolutely not happening.
Wow. Okay. That's a shame.
Along with some weird videos on Instagram. Yeah. That's what Britney loves to do.
Jimmy Kimmel has hit back at NFL star Aaron Rodgers over an Epstein list related allegation. And this was stuff that was said on a podcast, right?
Yeah. So, like, I'm sure your viewers are across the Epstein list that's been released about a whole bunch of high-profile celebrities or prominent figures that were meant to have visited the island. Now, there was a rumour over the last week or so, started on this podcast by this football player, that Jimmy Kimmel was going to be named on the list. He's sort of lashed back yesterday on Twitter saying, I'm going to sue you to the end of the earth because you've caused distress to myself and made my family unsafe. Obviously, the list is out and Jimmy's name is nowhere to be seen on it. And one of the footballers who was involved in the podcast has actually walked back, basically apologising publicly, saying, should never have been involved in that. It was out of line for us to have done it.
Well, you can't just throw around accusations like that.
No, it's pretty crazy what they can get away with under freedom of speech in the US.
The movie Saltburn, now I haven't seen it.
Oh, strap in.
But it's causing quite the stir.
It is.
And it's streaming on Prime, is it?
Yeah, so I'm going to try and carefully choose my words of how I describe this movie because there's a lot. The movie is a lot. So it's in cinemas here in Australia and it's also streaming on Prime Video. There's a lot of buzz about that it's going to be, clean up at the awards season. The movie's kind of getting a bit of a cult following at the moment. Stars Aussie Jacob Elordi. Look, there's a few confronting scenes. This is not one of them. This is not confronting at all. But look, let me just tell you, there's a scene, without giving too much away, that involves someone drinking someone's bathwater. Someone has turned that scene into a candle that you can now buy on Etsy.
Oh dear.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot. That's all I'm going to say. It's a lot. Don't watch it with any family members that are not there by choice.
Good warning. Good warning. Yeah. It's 2024. Are there any movies you're particularly excited about this year?
Wow. There's a few big ones in the first quarter alone. The Ferrari movie out, which Adam Driver in. Very excited to see that. Basically tells the story of Ferrari in the 50s on the precipice of going bankrupt and what happened from then on. Next week, Mean Girls. The movie is out. Yes, there was a Mean Girls movie in the early 2000s, but this is not a remake. It's not a reboot. It's the best way to describe Mean Girls, the one that's coming out next week. It takes the original movie, the Broadway musical, and fuses them in between.
Right.
And then The Iron Claw, starring Zac Efron. I'm not sure if you're a big WWE wrestling man.
No, not massively.
Okay, but this tells the true story of the Von Erich family, a prominent 80s wrestling family, and if you know, you know. A truly depressing story of this family.
And it's set in the 80s, isn't it?
Yeah. The patriarchal father figure's desire, dad, to have his sons wrestle in his eye. If you didn't know it was a true story, you'd be like, there's no way that this family could be so unlucky. Zac Efron completely transforms his body. Like, it's enormously large.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Just quickly, because we're running out of time, the Golden Globes, they're next week. Do we know who's hosting?
Yes, it just was announced this morning. Comedian Joe Coy announced. He is sort of like a new up-and-coming comedian. He toured here in Australia last year. He's been announced as the host because everyone else said no.
I wonder if he's offensive.
I have no idea, but Amy Poehler turned it down, Ricky Gervais turned it down, and Tina Fey turned it down.
Right.
So time will tell what happens.
Okay. Smallzy, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great weekend.
You too.